Hello, everyone, and welcome to another DevReach Spotlight interview. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Scott Hunter to the stage for our speaker spotlight for DevReach 2023. Scott Hunter is responsible for everything under the sun, at least in my opinion, for the Microsoft's dotnet platform. And before leading that massive machine, he helped the Azure Developer Experience team with things like the Azure SDK, Azure Redis Cache, Azure API management, ASP.NET, Entity Framework, and the web tooling. So his depth of experience makes him such a special and brilliant opening keynote speaker for our conference. Scott, thank you so much for taking the time today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm so excited to be at DevReach this year. I can't wait to be there. We're not that far away, so
Amazing. I know, right? I think I want to say a month out exactly. So
about a month
I'm
out.
ready. So I read that you grew up in Arkansas, which is not too far from my home state, Oklahoma. Tell us, how did you go from the middle of the states out to the west? How did you get your start in technology?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story. So I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I went to school in Fayetteville. So that means I'm an Arkansas Razorback. And when I came home from my first year in college, my mom said I had to get a job, and and my mom at the time was in a recruiting agency, and she got me a job at Crate and Barrel in the warehouse. And I'm like, that's not really what I was thinking of a job. And so I called a friend that I knew in California that was doing a startup. And I said, hey, are you looking for anybody to work for the startup? And they said, yeah, we have a spot for you. And so I went and told my mom, I'm like, I'm moving to California. So I'm like 1 year of college, and I'm like, I'm going to pack up and leave for California.
What were her thoughts on this?
She was not happy.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I have to give my grandmother credit. My grandmother was like, he's young, let him go. If it doesn't work, he'll come back.
Aw.
And I never came back. We the startup was a company called Mustang Software, and I was there through 2001, and and then after that, I did some consulting for a bit, and then I came and joined Microsoft in 2007. But once I got to the West Coast, I got the technology bug, and you know, uh, Southern California to Seattle, Washington, and I've been working on .NET and Azure ever since.
When you were at the startup, was it .NET technologies you were using, or was it other things?
.NET didn't exist at the time,
Okay.
and so we actually that's a funny coincidence. So we were using Turbo Pascal, which became Borland Pascal, and both of those languages were created by Anders Hallsberg, who is the same creator of C Sharp.
Okay.
We were one of the biggest companies using that technology to build commercial products at the time, and so we got a chance to go up to Borland, where Anders worked, and I met Anders in his Pascal days. And then, of course, I've met Anders many a time at Microsoft in his C Sharp days, and it's super weird that we both met each other before Microsoft, and now we both work in the same organization at Microsoft.
So it's almost as if like C Sharp is in your blood now because you've just been.
There's some faith there, but we did the Pascal, then we did C++, and then C Sharp was the thing after it. Actually, C Sharp was the when we sold the startup in 2001. I took my engineering team on a kind of like a final get together before the company was sold. And that final get together was to Orlando, Florida. And it was at the PDC where Scott Guthrie announced .NET.
Wow.
And so super weird how that kind of happened. And then technically I did two more smaller startups, but and they were both C Sharp based. And so that's where the C Sharp came from. And when I applied for Microsoft, I basically told them I want to either work on ASP.NET or C Sharp.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, because you were how long was it from the time that you left the startup until you were on the Microsoft team? Is that a long time?
I said technically the big startup, which was 11-year startup, that was 2000. We left that at 2001. I did two more, but it was 2007 when I moved up here. And kind of what happened was I also got married after we sold the startup, and then my first kid came, and it felt like children were not the right thing to be growing up. Yeah, doing a startup needs to not require children, in my opinion.
Oh my goodness.
Startups were, Not saying we don't work hard at Microsoft, but we work super hard on the startups. I mean, those were 7-day-a-week jobs.
Oh, I bet. It's like it is kind of in a way a child that you're raising and trying to get stable. So
It,
let's have one baby at a time, please.
it pretty much is, and it takes your entire life. I mean,
Mm,
and once again, the startups, because you're financially invested in a person. I was a founder of the first startup.
mm.
It was leveraged against my house.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's always a good stress to have.
but that's how I got
Uh,
from the southeast to the Pacific
out to
Northwest.
out to the west, yeah. So your opening keynote for DevReach is building and scaling cloud native intelligent apps with .NET 8. Super pumped. It sounds
Lots of
like
lots of stuff.
I know, I was gonna say it's a doozy of a topic to kick off the event. There's so many parts. So for those of you, I wanna break it down, for those unfamiliar with cloud native microservices, could you explain them?
Yeah. So I I think it goes beyond just microservices. I mean, if we think of the cloud today, there's been a shift, and the shift has been a lot of cloud applications are based on Linux now. A lot of cloud-based applications are based on containers as a mechanism for hosting and publishing your apps to the cloud.
Mm,
And then, as you mentioned, microservices is something that we see as well, which is the idea of breaking your app into pieces that can be scaled independently. Um, and .NET has always been great for building those types of applications, but we haven't done anything to help you. And so,
mm,
I hope to show part of what we're building in .NET 8. We're building some new tech for building these types of applications that nobody's ever seen before, and that's what I'm really excited about, is showing how some of our newer technology can make it very easy to run a multi-part microservice app on your local machine, and then how we can get that same application up into a cloud like Azure. Um, and so there's lots of things that cloud applications need. They need to have resiliency, where they do retry policies on their databases and their APIs. Once again, we have all this tech in .NET. It's just not on by default. And so
mm,
we really need to take some of our best practices in .NET, flip all the switches on by default, and leverage some of the tech that we built in .NET 7. We have a cool feature in .NET 7 where you can actually build a container
mm.
without even having Docker on the machine. You don't. So it's like you can do cloud native development in .NET without having any, Docker desktop or that stuff on the machine. And that's a principle of our design as well, is develop locally like you always have, and then we can
Mm.
publish and run the app in the cloud.
So that is available, you said, in .NET 7?
Yeah, .NET 7 has that Docker feature that we have that we
Okay.
built. It's basically, you can do a .NET publish and specify that you want it to create a container,
Mhm.
and we'll just create the native container for you, and then you would upload that to a registry. But
Uh,
there's a whole bunch of .NET frameworky stuff coming in 8.
so
Um,
without spoiling too much, can you tell me any of this tell me a little bit about any of this tooling that's coming that's going to aid in cloud development in .NET? And because I know you said you want it to be on by default, so or things will be by default. Is there any other things coming that will make that investment?
you want things to be on by default. Another thing is, you want how do two apps connect and find each other. And anybody doing .NET today knows this is a pain. What you do is you have a config file, and you go find the IP address and the port of your local application, and you wire them all together.
Mm,
Um, but that doesn't work, because when you go to the cloud, all those IP addresses and those ports are going to change again.
right.
And so, how do we specify that? As I said, in .NET today, there's a loose ability in Visual Studio to say that your solution contains multiple projects and you can run multiple projects.
Mm,
Um, but it's not a very good experience. And so that's, being able to run a multi-part application is something that we want to make a lot better.
mm.
We did an experiment a couple of years ago called Project Tie. And it was, I don't know if you ever tried Project Tie, but it was something that we knew we were going to get back to. And I'll show kind of the new generation of Project Tie. And one of the benefits of that is, whether you're in Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code,
Yeah.
you can run these multi-part applications. That's part of this as well, is saying no matter what tool you're in, what .NET tool you're in, all this stuff holds together. So there's a bunch of exciting things, I think.
That is awesome. So on Azure, I'm super new to the cloud world. Is there anything with being able to run things on Azure to make that part smoother coming up in the future?
Yeah. Yes. So, like all clouds, Azure has lots of cloud hosting, technologies. For microservices, we have lots of container services. We have Azure Kubernetes Service.
Mm,
That's if you want to run on top of Kubernetes, which is a super popular in the cloud native world. It's kind of the de facto standard. If you just want to run your application on Kubernetes and control Kubernetes with all the knobs and whistles, we have that available through AKS.
mm,
And then we have a new service called Azure Container Apps. While your app is still running on Kubernetes, we hide the Kubernetes away. We manage it all for you. And I think that's the ideal place to take your .NET 8, cloud application and host. And we'll be doing work in um, .NET to make sure that your apps can scale well in either AKS or Azure Container Apps. And so that's a new thing that we're doing as well. Today you have to go read FAQs and
mm,
documentation of how to scale. We have a feature in .NET called data protection,
mm.
and we're the only framework that has encryption of forum posts and a variety of things, tokens and stuff by default. But that
Mm.
complicates the cloud. You have to store a key somewhere. So if you take a .NET 7 app today and scale it in AKS or ACA, it will crash as soon as you hit more than one node. And we want to make
Oh,
sure that the tech to fix that is on by default in these new .NET 8 based apps.
okay. Well, that's really cool. But the crashing has nothing to do with data protection, right? Is that like a separate?
It is data protection. So
Okay.
what happens is the way data protection works is we have to have a key. It's the key that we encrypt all of the post information.
Mm,
Today, when you scale, each instance will have its own key. And then if one of them posts across to the other VM,
hmm.
the key will be wrong. They'll mismatch
Right.
and it'll fail. So you have to have a place to store the key, so all instances share the exact same key.
Right. Okay.
We have an article I said today that shows you how to configure that, but you crash and then you have to go figure out where the article is, and
Yep,
let's
and go down that
let's
rabbit hole.
let's put that on by default so you don't have to crash to start with. That's kind of
Oh,
the idea.
that's nice. .NET 8 is fall? When?
.NET 8 will ship at .NET Conf, and that's the
Mhm.
week of November 15th.
Okay. Awesome. Very exciting. Well, I think you have your work cut out for you because it is a lot that you're covering in the keynote. I'm super pumped to see it all, though.
One more thing that I think we talked about intelligent as well, and so I'm super
Yeah.
excited about the OpenAI tech.
Oh, yes. I
Um,
forgot to ask you about that.
yes,
Oh my
we have
goodness.
ML.NET and .NET. We've had it for a while, which is our machine learning library. But ML.NET requires you to be a machine learning kind of expert. There's a bunch of
Mm.
algorithms. You have to know how to train stuff. I'm super excited about OpenAI because you don't have to be a machine learning AI expert to use it. I can actually go grab the OpenAI SDK. One of the demos we'll do at the event. Anybody could write, no matter what your level of machine learning is. And so my team actually builds the SDKs for .NET for OpenAI. So we make sure that whatever
Wow.
libraries OpenAI has, that we've got great C# SDKs for that. And so we'll demo at the show the C# SDK, and we'll show you how you can do some AI, not using ChatGPT or any of the GPT models, but just
Right.
actually using your own data.
So is that available now, or is that something coming in November as
It's
well?
available now. So we shipped the SDKs back at Build, which would be in May
Okay.
of this year is when those SDKs went GA. But as I said, super excited because that stuff's just so easy to pick up and use for .NET developers. So
Oh,
that's our
wonderful.
job, is to make sure .NET stays relevant with every shift and change that we see in the developer ecosystem.
Wow. So you're gonna be showing that off too then with
Yes.
your app. Yes. Oh, I cannot wait. Oh, that's amazing. Are there any other bits that you wanna highlight for your opening keynote or just .NET in
We'll
general?
do some deep dives into C# 11 as well.
Mm.
Obviously, every .NET comes with a new version of C#, and there's some really cool features in C#. And so I think we're going to do microservices and cloud, artificial intelligence, ML, and then some C# 11 would be the three big areas that we're going to hit.
Very cool. Oh, that's wonderful. Is C# 11? I'm like very out of the loop. Is it coming out as well at the same time or
It
is it
comes
already?
with .NET 8, yes,
Okay. Cool.
and it's got some great features that I can't wait to show off.
Ah, Amazing. Well, I cannot wait to see that, and also just to get to hang out with you in Bulgaria and get to talk with you about all these technologies. Have you been to Bulgaria before? Have
I
you
have never been to Bulgaria. This is my first time, and so I'm super excited about that as well. Um, it's fun just to be back traveling for work and traveling for
Mm.
conferences again. So during the COVID years, we didn't get a chance to do very much of this, and so I cannot wait to get to Europe and
No,
Bulgaria
absolutely.
and meet everybody.
Oh, so is there one thing or a couple things maybe that you're looking forward to most about DevReach and seeing, people, things, Bulgaria? Anything highlight?
To me, I just love meeting people, and so getting a chance to meet my customers that are at DevReach. Can't wait to meet everybody in DevReach,
Mhm.
and hopefully, bring questions. I love answering questions. I'll be around the conference the whole time, and then I'm a beer person, so I can't wait to try
Oh,
Bulgarian beer as well.
excellent. I honestly have never I've only been to Bulgaria once, so I will be on that journey with you because I did not hunt down any beer when I was there last time, so I'm gonna see if we can find a good one.
We should do that together. That'd be fun.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. I appreciate you and honestly cannot wait to hang out with you in person and see your opening keynote. So thank you,
Me
Scott.
too. See everybody at DevReach.
Absolutely. See you all there. Bye bye.